Hello and welcome to this course in Global English, Unit 19, Reading Module, Unit 9. We have been talking about reading. Earlier we spoke about listening. Almost the first half of the entire half of this rather long course is given to creating for us a sort of academic exposure, exposure to the kind of language we should listen to, we should read, so that we know what a good variety of English is, and we should also understand how does it take very complex sentences, does it take big words, does it take a huge learning before one can speak or write in English. I am sure by now you believe that that is not required. If you have that, if you have all that, wonderful, as in any other language, as for scholars in any other language, the more you know, the better it is. But the important thing is we must know at least so much that is essential. And what is that minimum that we must know to perform our essential role in a community, as a citizen, as a worker, as the member of a family, while speaking or listening, while reading or writing. So that is what we are focusing at all the time. Okay? In the reading module, we have already looked at reports, travel brochure, and we have now been looking at short stories. We have already looked at two short stories. One, and both of them from the Mahabharata, that inexhaustible, unending store of great stories, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata. So we looked at the stories of the Bakasura, the story of the bird in the tree, how those days examinations and tests and interviews were conducted to know who has learned how much, okay, so that the teacher knew if their method was working and was working with how many students, etc. Today we have brought a story from Panchtantra. Now I don't really imagine that we have anyone among us who does not know about Panchtantra. We believe that they are thousands of years old, and as I said earlier, these stories were told by a learned scholar to the sons of a king, which sons were unwilling to learn in any manner. The story goes that the king of a particular kingdom found that though his princes were growing in years, growing in body, but they were not growing in mind, because no matter what teacher he appointed for them, these princes took no interest at all in attending that teacher's classes, doing the work given to them, or doing anything, making any effort to learn anything. So the king was greatly worried. How would they run the kingdom after him? Only physical energy, physical power would not be enough to run a kingdom. one must also have learning and education to be able to be at the head of the statecraft. So he then announced a huge reward, sent the invitation to other kings and other kingdoms, requesting help of any teacher who could help these princes. And then somebody called Pandit Vishnu Sharma came one day to his kingdom and said that he could do that, and he did that. How he did? He took the princes out and told them that he was there only to tell them stories, and if they found his stories boring, they could leave his class. They need not continue to be there, and they could leave as soon as the stories ended. But the prince wove his stories in such a manner that every story led to another story, which led to yet another story, which led to yet another story. And these were not the stories of human beings, these were the stories of cats, the donkeys, the deer, the birds, the lions, the tigers, the cows, the bulls. All kinds of animals became characters in the stories of Pandit Vishnu Sharma, through which, and then he organized them all in 5 sets of stories. That is why they are called Panchatantra, 5 technologies or 5 compilations. One is called Mitralav, how you make friends. One is called Mitrahani, how you lose friends. One is called Mitraved, how you plant dissension or differences among the friends of your enemy. And then there is Kakolokiya, how do you find out the plots of others. And there is the 5th, I'm sorry I don't remember the name, but you can check the net and you can find all of these things, and all of these stories are easily available on the net. All you have to do is to ask for it and it will be there. So from those hundreds of stories, today I have brought one for you. This is the story of the monkey and the crocodile. Now the usual practice is that we read a story and then we are asked questions on what we have read. But here, following some other teachers, one of my own teachers, and I still remember him with much gratitude, a great teacher indeed, I have put the cart before the horse. I am going to ask you questions before you read these stories. How would that help you? It may not, and it may. Because when you read the stories, when you look at a newspaper or an announcement or an information brochure or anything for that matter with a question, then you are, number one, interested in reading that story. Number two, you are likely to retain what you read for longer than otherwise, and you are also likely to recall it faster. So what I am going to do with only one story, you can do with many others. You can actually rewrite those stories in your mind, on your computer, in your notebook, and you will find that you will discover the latent creativity in you, the untapped talent and the energy that is in you, but that has perhaps not been put to great use. So this is how I am going to do it today. Before you go to the story, here are the questions. You need not really write the answers except in your mind. Of course, in your mind you can write those answers. Say for example, when you get the title, The Monkey and the Crocodile, what do you think the story could be about? Could the story be about how they fought? Could it be the story about how they together killed another animal, or how they together accomplished something else? Okay. Do you think the story has only these two characters, none else? Okay. And if you think there is another character, who could that character be? There is the monkey here, there is the crocodile here. Could the third character be a donkey or a fish or a bird or a bull or a cow or a rabbit or a deer? Who could that be? Okay, which animal could that be? Right? If you let us just begin with these questions, and we'll look at only the first two paragraphs first. So here is the story for you. The monkey and the crocodile. Okay. I don't think there is any word in these two paragraphs that may be difficult for you, but if there is any, then as I have been advising you, I once again insist that you should not leave that new word unchecked. You must check with a dictionary, find its meaning, find its pronunciation, find how it is used, find where that word came into English from, etc., etc. Look at the story, and you can take your time. I may be in a hurry, I may move on, but that doesn't matter. That should not stop you and then move over again. So take your time and read the story carefully. Okay. Now you have found some answer to your questions, but keep them to yourself. Again, before you read the next two paragraphs. Okay. Now in the first two paragraphs, it's only the monkey's world. Okay, which is where he lived, a happy monkey. Now, of course, the second character, the crocodile, is about to come. Why is the crocodile coming? Does he want to kill the monkey? Does he want to make friends with the monkey? Does he have some other plans? Has somebody else sent him to spy on the monkey? How come there is no other animal in this forest and monkey alone rules over it all? What's the secret? How do you think the monkey will treat the crocodile? Would he welcome the crocodile? Would he do his best to chase the crocodile away? Or would he ignore the crocodile? No matter who comes, who goes, how does that matter to the monkey? Do you think they are going to be friends or enemies? And how could they be friends or enemies? Monkey lives in trees, on trees, You say in trees when you are within, inside, surrounded by leaves. Nobody else can see you except with effort. And on tree means anywhere upon its branch. You may be seen, you may not be seen. So the monkey lives in trees, on trees, and the crocodile lives in water. Occasionally it comes to breathe, it comes to the land to breathe or to bask in the sun, and then it slides down into the water. Okay. How could they have any interaction? Suppose they knew each other's language. And remember, neither of them has a cell phone, so they can talk to each other using the phone. Then how could they be friends or enemies? They don't even have a common territory, right? Make a guess and come to these two paragraphs. Once again, pay attention to words. Are there any new words for you? For example, are you comfortable with the meaning of the word edge? in the first line, EDGE. Okay. Many people do not like to write the full word crocodile all the time, a full name. So, for example, my name is Shreesh Chaudry. So, many of my friends call me Shreesh or Chaudry. Some people abbreviate it further, they call it SC. So, by what is the meaning of the word abbreviation? Making something shorter and taking the first letter of their name and first letter of their, suppose they have 3 names, like the name of the country called the United States of America. So, many people can still say United States or states. Some people still say United States of America, but many people prefer to use the first letter of each of these 3 words. So, they call that country by its abbreviation, calling it USA, or further or still shorter, US. So, many people do not like to call crocodile by its long name, they just call it croc. So, to make it easier for you, I have also used the word croc. It only means crocodile, nothing else. So, I do not think you have any other words for here which are likely to be new for you. Maybe concerned, felt worried if somebody is not well, and a friend or a family or even a stranger, then sometimes you feel for them, sometimes you worry. Okay, so that's the meaning of the word concerned. You would like to see them getting better. Similarly, in the second paragraph here, do you think there is any word here which would be difficult? Perhaps the word shore might be new for you. SHORE, shore. Any large water body, the point where this large water body meets land is the point called shore. You can look up a dictionary to be precise, to be more accurate and confident. Otherwise, it does not have any word which is new for you. Okay, so I am sure the earlier questions have been answered. Let us go to the next unit. Next paragraph. Thus began the friendship between the monkey and the croc. Okay. The monkey gives the croc jamuns for lunch and jamuns for dinner, and these jamuns are magic jamuns. As you eat them, you gain in strength. So they are both very happy. They both talk for a long time about many things they have seen and they want to see. Okay. So they live happily, right? Now the question is, will this happiness, will this kind of loving friendship between the two animals from two different worlds go on forever, or is there, as sometimes happens in popular films, is some crisis going to come, is some problem going to come which will test and challenge this friendship? Okay, if it is, who is going to bring that interruption, that disruption, that break in the friendship? Is it going to be the monkey or the crocodile? Ask yourself. And for either of them, why would they do that? They are both very happy, they are both enjoying each other's company and their solitude. Why should they like to break this? Or if anything, they should further like to strengthen it. So do you think they are going to further strengthen their friendship? For some time, monkey lives on water riding the back of the crocodile, and for some time crocodile comes and climbs the tree. Is that going to happen, and why? Okay. find your answers here. Take your time, read it once again, and once again, I don't think you have many new words here. I guess you know the meaning of all of these words. If you have any doubts, please look up a dictionary. A word like offer is not in very frequent use, but I don't think it's very difficult. It shares the meaning with give. The difference is when you give it to someone, someone takes it away. Offer may be accepted, may not be accepted. Okay? Offer has that element of uncertainty. You know, you can offer somebody one of your books, but that friend of yours may or may not take it. Okay, otherwise, I don't think in the next paragraph as well, I don't think you have any terribly new word that you might not, yes, I have used a word like dating. I am sure many of you know the meaning of this word better than I can explain it to you. But if there is someone among us who does not know the meaning of this word, please look up a good and a more recent dictionary, either on your cell phone or on your computer or in a hardbound dictionary. Okay? Make sure you know the meaning of all the words. I hope by now you have answered the questions that we raised. So let's go to the next set of questions. You see, now Mrs. Croc has tasted the jamun, okay, and Croc goes and tells his friend how much his wife liked this jamun. Actually, she loved it, okay, and the wife used to be unhappy with Mr. Croc, but I'm sorry, I have misspelled the word. This K is not required. Okay, you may please make a note. Right? So the Croc is all full of praise for his friend that he has brought happiness back into the Croc's life. His wife used to be unhappy with him. She is no longer so, okay, and she now speaks with him very lovingly, which had not happened in recent weeks or months. The Croc almost fell in love with his wife once over again. Okay, now comes the next set of questions. Once again, do you think this kind of situation, happy situation is going to continue forever? Will Mrs. Croc like her husband to create a jamun tree for her own? Okay, will she continue to be happy and satisfied with the few jamuns that her husband brings from the monkey every evening, or will she like to have her own jamun tree so that she can eat as many tons of jamun she likes every day? Okay, might pressure her husband to get her own jamun tree. What do you think is likely? Many people have that habit, not just men, not just women. Okay, many people have that. They are not happy with just what they've got. They would like to have more of it. A lot of people have this weakness for different things. So do you think this character, Mrs. Croc, is not likely to ask for her own jamun tree? What is going to bring the crisis? Or a jamun tree, you plant the seed, it takes time to grow, and by the time it is big enough, some other animal will eat that tree. That tree might die for want of water. A whole lot of problems can occur, and that tree might not come up. So many people perhaps think it is best that you capture somebody else's tree. So is this character, Mrs. Croc, going to ask her husband to capture that jamun tree? After all, crocodile is stronger. Okay, in a fight between the crocodile and the monkey will have no chance. So do you think the wife of the croc is going to pressure him to capture that jamun tree and dispossess the monkey? Or now that monkey sends some jamuns for his friend's wife every day, so do you think the monkey is not curious? Would he not like to call Mrs. Croc and be direct friends with her rather than keep her as a friend's wife? Just be in that box? What do you think is going to happen? Are they all the three of them going to be friends, knowing each other, respecting each other? Or are they going to realign the two together and one outside that circle? What do you think the monkey is going to do? Okay? Try and find your answer. Read it carefully. All right? Any new words? Well, we have used lots of adjectives in this story. Words like delicious, okay, or sweet. So pay attention to these adjectives. There are two kinds of adjectives, as I told you earlier. One is which can directly become, change their degrees of comparison. They can go from positive to comparative to superlative. So for example, you have an adjective like sweet. Okay. So you can say laddus are sweet. You can also say chocolate is sweet. But you can say the cake is sweeter. You can say rasgulla is sweeter. You can say kaju katli, kaju barfi is sweeter, so more sweet. Somebody else can say no, none of these things. The rasgulla from Calcutta is the sweetest. Okay, so you can have degrees of comparison within the word. Sweet, sweeter, sweetest. You add er and est. You add to sweet. Here is sweet, and you add er, so it becomes sweeter. And if you add est, then it becomes sweetest. So neutral is positive is sweet, comparative is sweeter, and superlative is sweetest. Okay, you can do that directly. But in an adjective like delicious, here is the pronunciation of this word. Delicious. This is where the stress is. Sorry. This is where the stress is. Delicious. I'm sorry for my awful handwriting. Let me write it again. Where is the stress? The stress is here. It is delicious. Now, how do you convert it into its comparative and superlative degrees? Are you going to say deliciousar, deliciousest, or are you going to add much more? The rule is pretty simple. The rule says any adjective which has 3 syllables, 3 parts. So, it has 3 parts. One is day, the other is li, the third is sus. You have day, you have li, li, and then you have sus. These 3 parts, it is de, li, sus, 3 parts. How can you get its comparative and superlative degrees? You will have to add much, more, or less, least, okay? Because any adjective which has 3 syllables, these are syllables. Usually one vowel makes 1 syllable, 1 vowel, but here 3 vowels make 1 syllable. So, this is an exceptional word in English in that sense, but nevertheless, okay, as far as speech is concerned, it is only 1 vowel. Okay. So, anything that has 3 syllables or longer, if you want to know more about syllables, you can look up the net, or you can look up books we have referred to, as part of this course. So, they will also help you understand the concept of syllable better. So, if any word that has 3 syllables or is longer, does not take and est, their degrees of comparison is changed through the use of much more or less least. So, you can say more delicious, you can say most delicious, or you can say less delicious, or you can say least delicious. This is how you change. Similarly, when you have adjectives made out of verbs or nouns, then again you use much, more, most. So, for example, earlier we saw the monkey was tired. Okay. Earlier we saw, sorry, not the monkey, the croc was tired. The croc looked hungry and tired. So, hungry can change into hungrier and hungriest, only 2 syllables, hungry. But tired, which has only 1 syllable, cannot change into, you cannot say tireder and tiredest. You can say more tired or most tired, because it has been derived from a verb. The verb is tire. Okay. You can also say less tired and least tired, right. So, any word, any adjective that has 3 syllables, or any adjective that has been made adjective from another word, from a verb or from a noun, would not take and est. Coming back to the adjectives that we saw, the delicious, how would you do it? So, it will be more delicious, most delicious. So, while you read these stories, you see, as I have been telling you, the wisdom lies in learning and staying simple. All the great truths of the world have been said in simple sentences, in simple language. If you can learn writing and speaking in a simple language, chances are you will rarely go wrong. You will be understood by all, you will understand others equally well, etc., etc. Okay. So that is why, in order to gain that understanding, it is important that you should also understand how these simple words behave and what they can do and what they cannot do. That is why it is important for us that we should look at these adjectives carefully and learn which of these can be inflected to another degree in which manner. All right. So let's move on. Your questions were, will Mrs. Crock like to have a jamun tree of her own, etc., etc. I am sure you have read it and you have found your answers. Let's move to the last. Do you think the croc will invite the monkey? And the croc may. Do you think the monkey will oblige the croc? And even if both of these things happen, do you think the croc would take the monkey home? Or would he drown the monkey on the way? Or the monkey would not go with him, monkey would not trust him, etc., etc. Read the relevant lines, the relevant paragraph. Once again, look at the text carefully, and if there are any words that are new for you, please ask me or check with the dictionary, thesaurus, any of these things, or on the net, and you will get the clue. Okay. All right, let's move on. Last set of questions. How would you like the story to end? Are you happy with the way the story ended? Perhaps you are. Many people are. When I used to teach, until recently I taught at a college, and I used to ask my students in the class how they would like this story to end, and they had interesting answers. Okay. Say, for example, I would have liked the monkey to visit Mrs. Crock and to motivate her to live with him, become friends with him, so that his loneliness would end and Mrs. Crock's loneliness would end too, and they could be good friends. Okay. So would you like it to end that way, or would you like another way? Okay. Finally, what lesson do we learn from this story? Okay. Maybe you can write this answer to this last and share your answer with us. Okay. Right. So that's the end of the story. Let's have some language related work. You might have seen that this story is full of adjectives and adverbs. So here is an exercise in adjectives. There are blank spaces. Can you fill in those blank spaces with the proper, accurate form of the word that should be there? So for example, look at the first column called positive. The word sweet is there, but the comparative and superlative degrees are blanks. So what would be the comparative degree, comparative form of sweet? Of course it is sweeter. And the superlative, of course it is sweetest. But for the best, it is already there in the superlative degree. So can another superlative be, is any another superlative possible? Perhaps not. So what can be, what which of its forms can be there in the comparative degree and in the positive degree? Obviously it is better and good. So like that, you may say, for instance, you can write here sweeter, and here you can say sweetest. Best is already given, so what would you write here? You would call it better. And what is the neutral form? Good. Similarly, most, you can go on, okay, like this, fill in the blanks. It may take you a little while, no problem, don't be in a hurry, take your time and do this exercise carefully, because this simple short exercise alone, and in no time will give you an insight into the language, that if you want to be a proficient user of this language, then you really do not need a whole lot of words. What you need is whatever number of words you know, you need proficiency with that. You should be able to use those words in many different ways. Okay? If it is an adjective, something like care, how would you use it as a verb or as an adjective? So we get careful and carefully, or careless. All right. Similarly, if you have a word like wonder, it's a noun or a verb depending upon how you treat it. Okay? And you can get wonderful out of it. Like this, you learn more about words when you do this kind of exercise. And we have given the answers at the end. Check your work with the given answers. Finally, a random test, slightly difficult. You read the story and you know these words. I am very confident there is no word required in any of these blanks that you do not know. It's only that it's a matter of recall. Can you recall which word would fit there? If you are able to recall, if you resist your temptation of going back and looking up the text and then filling it in, you can do that. There is no problem with that either. That is not unethical as well. But in that case, you are losing a chance of learning. Therefore, what you should do is, you should try and fill it in, out of your own memory. What would you write here in the first blank? Many people would immediately say sweet jamuns. Of course, they were sweet. That is why, the clock wanted to take them home. That may not be a wrong answer, but is that the best answer? Is that the right answer? The right answer would be, how many jamuns? So one day the clock took, because he was not sure, his wife would like it. So one day the clock took, this is the answer, some jamuns home, and offered. What would you say here? Offer is a verb that would require an object. Offered what to whom? Okay. Offered jamuns to his wife, because jamun has been stated there already once. So now you can use the pronouns for jamun. The pronoun would be them. Offered them to his wife. Okay. The clock loved wife. What would fit in there? So go this way through the entire fill in the blanks, carefully, slowly. Don't be in a hurry. I am very confident that if you are not in a hurry, you will be able to get them all right. And once you get even these little simple exercise all right, believe me, you will have gained great confidence in your ability to learn and in your proficiency in the English language. Okay, that is what doing these exercises successfully does to you. Okay, so don't be in a hurry. Don't please try and look up the text before you have filled it in. Once you have done them, then you can, of course, you can go and look at them. Here are the answers to the complete table of adjectives. Check your answers, and if there are any differences, check with the dictionary, because that is considered to be the standard benchmark. And finally, here are those blanks you should have filled in. So thank you very much. Before we conclude, it's always a good idea, if you want to learn some language, then to read the literature in that language. By literature I mean not just fiction, but also fiction. Okay, so read manuals, read reports, read messages, books of all kinds, reports of all kinds, but you must also occasionally read stories, novels, poems and plays, because they bring you the slice of language, the slice of the community, the society using that language like no one else does. And that's the best exposure you have. And there, if you do exercises of this kind, I don't really mean to say that you must fill in the blanks in every story you read, or you must only have adjectives or that sort of thing. No, you must look at those words, you must look at the text. You can, after you read the story, take one paragraph, remove some words at random, and then try and fill those blanks in. Please believe me, if you can fill them in successfully, you can pat yourself on the back, you can say, now I've learned the language. Thank you.